Welcome back to the Shuffle Squad. This is Zach Lesage speaking. Today we're going to be going over the top 10 best decks in the Shrouded Fable format. We've seen Worlds happen, some changes have happened at local events since Worlds, and of course Baltimore Regionals is coming up. This is definitely a little bit of movement on this list this week, so some stuff going on in the metagame, some online tournaments, local events, you know what I'm talking about. If that sounds interesting, we will be going over the decks 10 all the way up to the best deck heading into Baltimore Regionals, local events, and any other Shrouded Fable events you might be playing in. That being said, give this video a like, share, subscribe, and you can check out all of these decks in the pinned comment below. Copy and paste them right into PTCG Live, and of course, if you need any of the cards for that, check out our sponsors in the description below. If you want to follow along with this video, be sure to put your best guesses in the comments to see if you're right by the end of the video. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't. Love to start a conversation. Let's jump into our number 10 pick. Kicking things off with a new entry to the list is going to be Blood Moon Iron Valiant EX. I thought about it, should I include this deck on the list? And while it might not necessarily have all the results, I think this deck is completely underrated because it has a significant matchup spread in this metagame. Sure, there's a lot of 2 prize card Pokemon that decks like Regidrago might be able to prey on, but this is one of the few decks that has a decent Regidrago Charizard matchup and can hold up with some of the aggressive decks. It might not be the most well-positioned deck of all time, but it does have some decent matchups. So if you're looking for something interesting, I just posted a video about this on the Shuffle Squad. I did go undefeated at a league challenge out here in the Montreal area. And of course, I think that this deck is quite cool. The strategy is going to be using Blood Moon Ursaluna, playing it down from your hand, self-accelerating those energies, and using Iron Valiant to increase the damage of your attack. So we'll have to see how it plays out, but right now we have it at number 10 this week, heading into Baltimore Regionals. Dropping down significantly this week is Lugia VSTAR, with Lugia VSTAR seeing both Iron Thorns and Miraidon in the metagame. On top of having some matchups that just aren't as great as you'd want it to be, Lugia is a little bit down this week. Now, this is something that could shape up in the next couple weeks as we get to Baltimore Regionals, because we're still a little bit out there. I think Baltimore is about 2 weeks from now. But right now, Lugia, while it's not a bad choice for local events, it might not be the best choice based off of our metagame heading into Baltimore Regionals. Still going to be using Archeops to get summoned into play with Lugia V-Star, still accelerating energies to your various Pokemon in play, and attacking with those big 2 prize card Pokemon, or your little Minccino Cinccino line. I think Lugia is always going to be a solid choice until it gets rotated out, as long as we don't face too many lightning type decks. So if there's not too much lightning type decks in your metagame, this is generally what I would be I'd say this is a solid list. Otherwise, there's plenty of other decks on this list. Let me know, where do you think Lugia is placed? I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments. Here at number 8, we have another deck that has dropped down the ranks, and that is Gardevoir EX. Gardevoir EX was one of the decks that I personally expected to do a little bit better at Worlds after it dominated the North American International Championships. You'd think with Shrouded Fable just being a mini set and adding only cards like Pheasantipity, Night Stretcher, and Dusknoir into the format, that nothing really would change. Well, it seemed like Gardevoir did not nearly do as well as NAIC, and had very few players making it into the day 2 of the World Championships. I think that Gardevoir is the same strategy as always. Really, you could add Night Stretcher in this deck, but we really gain just more of the alt art Monkey Dory, which is the same one as we always had. It's just more of a minor art upgrade. Still loading up energies onto your various psychic Pokemon. I just think Gardevoir is just not very well positioned, especially with some of the decks that are getting towards the top of this list. Now, the metagame could always shift and turn. Gardevoir players are quite clever, so if they see that Gardevoir is a better positioned deck than I think so, by all means, feel free to play it. These are just merely suggestions of my take. I think, I mean, I'm out here suggesting Blood Moon is number 10, right? There's definitely going to be some personal biases across the board. And of course, when it comes down to it, this is my video for the Shuffle Squad. So I think Gardevoir is number 8, but let me know what you think. Let's jump into number 7. At number 7, we have Iron Thorns EX, the deck that won the World Championships. And I think the deck is not necessarily seeing as much success afterwards because Worlds was a kind of closed metagame in a way. We were kind of experimenting with a lot of different decks, and maybe something like Iron Thorns would be able to get through the Worlds metagame if people didn't really expect it. Quite a few groups did end up bringing this deck, but in the end, we had it just winning Worlds. So with it winning Worlds, it's now fully out there. I think people are countering it. I think I see some Charizard lists with canceling Cologne, and we see Regidrago already playing canceling Cologne, and we see some other decks popping up into the metagame. We're still going to be playing Iron Thorns in this metagame. I think it's still a valid resource, a valid deck, and you just want to play disruption cards and disrupt your opponent by not allowing abilities, not allowing energies, bringing up whatever you want with Boss and Pokemon Catcher. I think that this deck is still incredibly strong, and in the right field, you can just win. I did win a league challenge earlier this season with Iron Thorns. I don't really see it going anywhere as long as we still have rule box abilities available in the meta. So we'll see how it goes. I don't think it's a bad choice for Baltimore in League Cups and League Challenges, but there might be better choices, and it might find its way against a canceling Clone or other decks that just get through initialization. At number 6, we have one of the more turbo decks in our formats. We have Roaring Moon EX, the deck that plays second at Worlds. I think that these turbo aggressive decks are quite good. And the way that I'm looking at this format, I think aggressive decks altogether, this, Miraidon, Raging Bolt, are all valid choices and find themselves in a category where they're not the best deck, but they can sometimes compete with the best deck. And we're really trying to go after the best deck in format. This deck, I think, is my least favorite out of all the aggressive decks. Maybe it's my second least favorite, depending on how the metagame shapes up. Sometimes you're going to have to use Frenzied Gouging when you want to be using Calamity Storm. And that might find a single prize card Pokemon knocking you out, which might make you more reliant to playing something like Pokemon Catcher. I think this deck works. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I could see this deck being the same as Gouging Fire or any of the other aggressive decks. They're all pretty similar in a category, and you'll see a little bit more as we go throughout this video. I don't want to give out too much information, but now since we are through the halfway point of the video, I do want to let everyone know that we have our sponsors at Kayfabe Cards, GameStop, and PTCGL Store. So if you are trying to support the Shuffle Squad, be sure to check out the description for those to pick up your Pokemon TCG singles, sealed product, and of course online code cards. So check those all out in the description if you're looking for anything. Also, give this video a like, double check to see if you subscribe to the Shuffle Squad. I know about half of you haven't subscribed to the Shuffle Squad, and it really does help us out. That being said, let's jump into our number 5 pick. Boom! At number 5, we have another aggressive deck, Miraidon EX. You can see we have a lot of the decks that did well at the World Championships, and this deck is very similar to the deck that Jesse Parker played, to that wonderful top 4 finish. Miraidon, I feel like it was quite good because it could handle Regidrago and of course some of the Lugias that we were seeing at the World Championships. However, I think with Lugia bowing out of the format, there might be a place where Miraidon might not feel as well positioned. Well, I'm actually going to say with Ancient Box kind of creeping back into the format, and of course decks like Roaring Moon EX, potentially using Frenzied Gouging to place themselves a damage, Iron Hands can pull its own weight. So in a world where single prize card decks are just kind of appearing to the metagame, I think that Miraidon EX certainly has an advantage against those. Still going to be ripping electric generators, still going to be just turbo aggressive. We got those Academy at Nights to help us with those kind of maneuvers to get those extra energies in play. Pretty cool deck across the board, and I think while it's not personally my favorite deck, I think it's very fitting of the number 5 deck in format, at least right now, but I could see this deck going down if the metagame is not as forgiving to it as I think it might be. One deck that I've been falling in love with again in this format is going to be Charizard EX. Now, I know that the Regidrago matchup might be a little bit spooky, and Regidrago was our best performing deck at the World Championships. The most spots in the top 8, top 16, 32, 64. Gotta give it up to the Drago, right? And that's a tough matchup. But when you have access to NTV to kind of tackle into your opponent's Ogre Pawns that are seeing success in both Raging Bolt and Regidrago, we kind of have a way to fight back by just fighting literally grass with fire. Charizard EX has a decent matchup against all of the other decks in formats, including all of those aggressive decks and most single prize card decks. So if we think about a deck being well positioned, Regidrago is a close-ish matchup. It's not an auto loss, and Entei V solves some of it alongside Mist Energy. So these very Pedro Pertusi, William Azevedo baseless might end up being the secret to success for Baltimore. And I think that this is a deck that not a lot of people are on right now. Not to say Charizard's not popular, but if you're on Charizard right now, more and more that I think about it, I think you're on the right path. Seems quite strong into the current metagame. So if you're playing in a cup or a challenge, or even Baltimore looking for a deck to play, I would recommend this one. Moving on to number 3, we have the long neck Pokemon, Raging Bolt EX with Ogerpon EX. Now, this is a deck that has been popping off since NAIC, and I think it's the best aggressive 2-prize card deck. When I say aggressive 2-prizer, I just mean basic Pokemon, 2-prizer, turn, you go second, and you're like, I'm gonna try to knock you out. I recently played this deck on stream, had an 11-0 win streak. You can check that stream out on the Shuffle Squad channel from this week itself. I just think loading up energies with Professor Sada's, proper sequencing, etc. can really lead to some awesome games. And for me, this is just the perfect list. I have seen some people talking about Dust Noir in their lists lately. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of it when it comes down to it, because I'd rather just play the tried and true deck. At the core, you want to be as aggressive as possible. Maybe it's something I need to test a little bit more, and that might be something that I test myself. But right now, I think Raging Bolt EX is the best out of all the aggressive decks. Obviously, see how the metagame's placing out, but I think Raging Bolt, out of all of them, has the most potential to just be the most consistent, largely due to Burst Roar being an attack, and largely just due to its extra HP that it has over the others. Like, there's a few just like minor quality of life improvements, and that's all you really need when it comes down to it. But the 4 catchers has been lit. Flip those heads, win those games. You got this. Sliding into number 2 and going up the most this week is going to be Ancient Box. Now, Ancient Box has kind of been talked about in a lot of PTCG group chats, where a lot of people are like, look at this matchup spread. This deck's really good, right? Well, I kind of feel like the man right now, where it's like, I knew about this at NAIC. I knew how the metagame was shaping up, and I've always been an Ancient Box supporter. So it's great to see it kind of getting its flowers by the community. If you haven't been testing Ancient Box already, it's probably something you want to do, or at least test against it, because this deck is going to be seen going a lot more than it ever has been seen. Like, its meta share is going up, is guess what I'm trying to say. Either way, Ancient Box is still going to be discarding those ancient cards, scaling damage with Vengeance Fletching, and really just has a great matchup spread into this current metagame right now. So again, I think this is really be-all, end-all, super solid list for Roaring Moon. Its matchup spread is crazy. I think this is just the one, I think. But it's not the number 1 deck. And you might already know what the number 1 deck is, but let's announce it. The number 1 deck of the week is Regidrago VSTAR. Now, Regidrago VSTAR is number 1 because this deck pretty much does everything you want. The lines of play are absolutely wild, where you can copy many different attacks. It's kind of like Henry Brandt's Mewtwo and Mew GX deck back in the day, where we can copy anything that we want. Dragapult, Tina VSTAR. I like the new Haxorus over Goodra because a lot of decks are running Iron Bundle and getting around Goodra anyways, or they're playing Pokemon Catcher, or they're playing Boss, or they're playing Prime Catcher, or all of those combined. I don't feel like that 200 damage is sticking, and I'd much rather have the slight damage outputs increase, and of course the opportunity to knock out some non-Mist Energy cards. I've cut the Temple of Sinnoh from my Worlds list, alongside with a few other cards, just to update a little bit more. We're gonna go aggressive with the 3 bosses orders when it comes to this build, and I really think that everything else is pretty solid. There's a world where I might change a few more cards. I think Regidrago can adapt to the metagame. I think there's a lot of opportunities to power up different Pokemon and try different dragon type Pokemon out. So give it a try, see exactly what's going on. But I think this is absolutely a fantastic choice for anyone going to Baltimore Regionals, anyone who's playing at League Cups and League Challenges. This is just the best deck. And the true reason why it's the best deck is you could have a dead hand, evolve in a Regidrago VSTAR, pitch away a supporter, now you're back in the game, still able to attack that turn. Other decks, when you're just drawing dead, you're like, cool, pass, pass, maybe use Motivate with Squawk. This deck has almost everything going for it, and there's not really many counters when you can invent your own counters to other decks. So really, Regidrago is it. Let me close things out in the outro. That's what we got going on for our video this week. I still will be posting another 2 videos, I think, in the Shrouded Fable format before I move on to Stellar Crown, heading into Dortmund, Joinville, Lima. So stay tuned for that. There's a lot of cool things going on the channel, including our live streams. I think we're close to 5 days a week now for live streams. So Monday through Friday, you can catch almost every single day a TSS member live streaming. And of course, we have our 5 videos a week, and sometimes we even do a little bit more. So I think there's a lot of great things going on the channel. We've really kind of figured things out lately, working through some things. But if there's anything that you want to see on the channel or any suggestions that you have, we're more than open to it. I really appreciate everyone who's tuning into this video. Hopefully these videos help you out on your Pokemon journey. I might sound like just another Pokemon YouTuber, but recently I made 36th place at Worlds out of almost 1,200 competitors. I've been playing Pokemon nearly for 20 years. I make the World Championships pretty much every single year that I play. Pretty sure I've made Worlds straight since 2014, 2015, something like that. It kind of blurs together. So someone who, like, needless to say, I'm just trying to offer as much information as I can back to the community. It's kind of what I do, so I hope that y'all enjoy it. If you're ever looking for any Pokemon coaching, hit me up on my Metafy in my description. On top of that, you could always join the Zach Lesage Discord server if you're looking for a great place to discuss Pokemon in general. I'll catch up with all y'all soon. Peace out and have a great one. You made it to the end. Thank you so much for watching this entire video from the Shuffle Squad. Honestly, from the bottom of our hearts, we appreciate each and every person that supports our content, watches what we have going on every single day, every single week, even from time to time, and continuously allows us to have a forum to project our creative content towards the Pokemon TCG community. So if you haven't already, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and even leave a comment to help boost the YouTube algorithm. That being said, we'll catch you with our next video. Thanks again. Take it easy.